This makes it worth it. This. Right now. Being with you, being here at the moment you step into the circle. Look at me. You made this decision long ago. The Empire cannot win. You'll never feel right unless you're doing what you can to stop them. You're coming home to yourself. You've become more than your fear. Let that protect you.
Andor has always been a show about sacrifice. One of the most memorable parts of Season 1 was Luthen's speech about what he gives for the rebellion, but nothing in Andor's first season, and I would go as far as to say nothing in Star Wars, has explored the sacrifices made for the rebellion to succeed as thoroughly and impactfully as Andor Season 2. Alongside exploring how the rebellion came to be what we see in Rogue One and beyond, Andor's sophomore season depicts the sacrifices required to bring the rebellion to such a place, and it focuses on the people who have to make those sacrifices. It tells the story of the people who die for the rebellion, the people who give up potentially even more than their life, and how these sacrifices paved the way toward a better galaxy. Though, before I get started, there will be spoilers for both seasons of Andor in this video, as well as Rogue One, so if you have not seen either of those, or at least if you are somehow unaware of the one Rogue One spoiler relevant to this video, I would advise you to watch those before you watch this, because I don't know how this video is going to turn out, but I'm pretty confident it won't be as good as Andor.
And what you realize is that it is a supremely noble death. If you're not willing to die by friendly fire or getting accidentally run over, or it's in a hail of gunfire in a big battle, they're all equal, because really the choice you made from the very beginning is that I'm willing to sacrifice myself, whatever form that takes.
This was Beau Willimon's response when asked at a panel about why he and Tony Gilroy decided to kill Sintoff the way they did, and alongside being an opportunity for me to brag about being there and getting to meet Beau the next day, this quote unlocked for me the relationship between death and sacrifice in the show, and especially in this season. The potential for any unique character in the show to die is not a new idea. This is a prequel series to the movie where every main character dies, after all. Even in Season 1, some of these characters knew they wouldn't live to see what they fought for.
I burned my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
But Season 2 shows us what the first tells us. In every arc of this season, one or two of the main characters die. It isn't everyone, like in Rogue One, but it's still enough to make a point. On top of the heavily foreshadowed Luthen, Season 2 sees the deaths of Brasso, Tay Kolma, Cinta, Cyril Karn, Lonnie, Partagaz, and it ends with Cassian and K2SO flying out to their already depicted deaths. This lineup of characters is interesting to me because it is a mix of main, secondary, and tertiary characters. All of these people were important to the story, and they were all integral characters to at least one storyline, but Lonnie, Brasso, and Luthen are not on the same level of importance in the show, and yet the show spends time to focus on each of their deaths. This lineup of people shouldn't be too surprising. This is the end of the story where most of these characters are not seen in later installments, so they could kill off virtually anyone. This could have been like Rogue One, where all of the main characters die, or like the Clone Wars and Rebels, where most of them survive. But the show has a balance in killing off its major and minor characters, emphasizing how anyone could die in the fight for freedom, and it makes sure all of them, or I should say all of the ones who work for the Rebellion, are depicted as dying in service of the Rebellion. However, though they died in service of the Rebellion, this season still approaches death and personal sacrifice differently than Season 1. In Season 1, a lot of the characters who died had impactful final moments. The Season 1 finale featured Marva's funeral speech as almost the closing message of the show, and it played not too long after Cassian and the audience hear Nemik's manifesto. They both die before they get their big moments, but they both get big send-offs in a way only maybe Luthen gets in Season 2. The potentially not dead Kino Loy also gets an amazing speech to be remembered by before we never see him again, something a character like Brasso doesn't get in Season 2. This isn't a criticism of either season. Those moments in Season 1 are some of my favorites, and they help inspire Cassian to join the cause, and the lack of payoffs with the deaths in Season 2 feels realistic. Not everyone gets a big moment before they die, and not everyone dies in a big explosion or in a massively outnumbered battle, but everyone who died for the rebellion gave their lives fighting in the hope of a better future. However, not every personal sacrifice in Andor Season 2 was death. Some of the most impactful sacrifices were characters giving up the things they valued in support of the rebellion. Mon Mothma, for example, has plot armor because she was from installments later on in the timeline, but she still sacrifices quite a bit for the rebellion. In the first arc of Season 2, Mon attends her daughter's wedding, and we get two scenes where Mon and her daughter, Lita, talk privately. The first is when Lita is upset because her fiancé won't hold her hand, and this scene shows her vulnerability and how much Mon wants to care for her. The second scene takes place right before the wedding ceremony, when Lita tells Mon she is scared, and Mon replies by saying she doesn't have to go through with the wedding. Lita gets upset with this response and goes through with the wedding, and this is the last time Mon and Lita interact. It hurt Mon to give up her daughter, so much so that she tried to take it back by the end, but she still gave up someone she wanted desperately to have a good relationship with. This is more so the sacrifice of a life she could have had than the sacrifice of something she had, but this, combined with Take-Homa's death during the party, was her sacrificing the two people she had thus far been shown to care about for the continuation of the rebellion. In the third arc of the season, Mon sacrifices her safety to call out the Gorman genocide, and multiple people attempt to assassinate her as she makes her escape. Later in the same episode, another character gives up everything when Bix has to leave the only person she has left because she knows the rebellion needs him. But for me, the most emotional sacrifice in this season was Luthen's death, because Clea was the one who had to pull the plug. If there's one thing this show has made clear about Clea, it's her dedication to the rebellion. Even before episode 10, which we'll get to in a second, Clea is shown to be resourceful and willing to do almost anything for the rebellion. We see this in episode 6, where she attends a party on Coruscant to remove a listening device from a Tianian codex in Davos Golden's collection before he checks for it. Keeping calm, she uses Lonnie to help her cover up for her mission, and she tries to remove the listening device with both Mon Mothma and Orson Krennic only a few feet away. She cuts her hand as she tries to remove the device, and she still maintains her composure as one wrong move could send, in the best outcome, her and Luthen's entire operation crashing down. I spend so much time on this only to give context for her storyline in the final arc of the series, where she has to kill Luthen because the Empire got to him before he could bleed out. As always, Clea is incredibly calm and resourceful, quickly figuring out how to get to Luthen's room and how to get the Empire away from it, but she hesitates when she actually has to pull the plug. It's only for a second, not long enough to compromise the mission, but it's still enough to emphasize how painful this is for her. After her moment of hesitation, she cries and pulls the plug, and she makes her escape. Like Mon and Bix giving up everything, and like the rest of the rebellion, she had to move on because there was still more work to do. The following episode shows her fully consumed by depression as she tries to get Luthen's final message out to the rebellion, not even sure anyone is listening. But Cassian and K2SO are, and to Clea's surprise, she makes it out of there alive. This was also to my surprise. Not just Clea, but a lot of characters unique to the show survived the final episode. This season has quite a number of major character deaths, but compared to Rogue One, where every major character we don't see in a later installment dies, it surprised me to see characters like Vel, Wilmon, Clea, Bix, and Dedra make it through the show's finale. However, in thinking about it, these characters surviving make the story more emotional because it emphasizes the impact these sacrifices have. The main characters of Rogue One are not shown to have anyone who will be hurt by their sacrifices, outside of other characters who die. Cassian Andor is the singular exception to this, but only because of his prequel show. I appreciate what Rogue One was doing. Its characters dying and seemingly being forgotten makes a pretty impactful statement about the people who don't get to see the future they fought for. But I think Andor makes these sacrifices for the rebellion even more impactful by highlighting the people who do remember. One of my favorite scenes from the final arc is when Cassian and Vel are drinking, and they toast to some of the people they've lost, largely from the Aldhani heist. The scene is maybe a minute long, but I think it's one of the best examples of the forgotten people who made the rebellion what it was in the original trilogy. More importantly, I think it's a highlight of the people who remember, the people who know and will forever feel the sacrifices it took to bring the rebellion to a point where it can defeat the Empire. The episode, and series as a whole, ending on a shot of Bix on Mina Rao holding her and Cassian's son, drives home this point as well. This ending recontextualizes the series and puts an emphasis on the people who know the sacrifices made for the rebellion, and it shows what they sacrificed their lives and everything else for. These sacrifices also inspire the survivors to continue the fight, to honor the sacrifices it took to get this far, and to keep fighting to bring about the better future so many died for.
I'm not sure how to thank you.
Make it worth it.
We see this especially with Clea, when she puts herself in danger to contact the rebellion in the hopes of giving them Luthen's information. She does so because Luthen died to get this information, and alongside her already existing dedication to the cause, she won't let Luthen's death be for nothing. I think the most important reason why so many people made it out of the season, though, is because this is a hopeful story. While much of the season feels like the characters acknowledging their likely deaths, the show ends, again, on a shot of Bix and the son she had with Cassian. Andor ends on a hopeful note because we know the story is a hopeful one. The rebellion will defeat the Empire. The future all of these sacrifices were in service of is going to exist, and the people they sacrifice themselves for will get to live in it.
The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance will have flooded the banks of the Empire's authority, and then there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. try.
Nimic's manifesto comes back into play in Andor Season 2's finale, and it reminds audiences of what all of this was for. All of these sacrifices are for a better future, a future we've already seen.